There's a brand new no trespassing Pine Needle Estates HOA sign zip tied to my cabin door, and someone has stapled lavender sachets to my porch like they ward off owners. A woman in a neon windbreaker points a phone at me and shouts with an aggressive tone that security's en route. I fish out my keys, unlock the deadbolt I installed 5 years ago, and say in a calm voice, "Great, have them bring my spare." The woman's face turns red as she realizes I have keys to what she's been calling an abandoned property for the past 6 months. I'm Jonah Merrill, the quiet type who keeps to himself and prefers trees to most people. My cabin sits on a deeded acre just outside the boundary of Pine Needle Estates, where driveway gravel is apparently a mood board and every mailbox has a live laugh lintel decal. The property has been in my family since 1972, back when this area was nothing but logging roads and deer trails. I left for 3 years to take a sabbatical caring for my uncle in Arizona who was battling cancer. I didn't rent anything out, didn't sell anything, just forwarded my mail and paid my taxes like a hermit who keeps receipts. The property management company I hired did monthly check-ins and kept the place maintained, though apparently they missed the HOA invasion. While I was gone, Pine Needle's president, Marla Yates, a woman with cheekbones sharp enough to cut lumber and a clipboard that could file charges, decided my cabin presented what she called a continuity gap. Translation was simple. It ruined the cul-de-sac's rustic chic aesthetic that she'd been cultivating for her real estate side business. Marla runs Yates Premium Properties, specializing in what she calls curated mountain living experiences, and my authentic 1970s frame cabin with its moss-covered roof apparently didn't fit her vision board. Marla warmed up by policing my absence with vegetation non-compliance notices, though it's literally a forest where wildflowers and ferns grow naturally. She cited my unapproved exterior, though it's just weathered wood siding that's been there longer than her entire subdivision. She complained about mailbox delinquency, though I don't even have one since I'm not part of their development and get my mail at the post office in town. The notices started appearing monthly, then weekly, each one more elaborate than the last with color-coded violation categories and laminated photo evidence of my property's supposed infractions. Then she went professional with her campaign. She posted HOA-branded no trespassing placards on my door, each one with a different violation code that didn't actually exist in any legal framework. She strung autumn bunting across my porch for their annual home tour, advertising my cabin as a historic example of what not to do with mountain property. She hosted garden club selfies on my private dock, telling her followers it was a community amenity that showcased rustic charm done right, conveniently cropping out my no trespassing signs. She told neighbors with a concerned voice that I'd abandoned the parcel after a family tragedy, implying but never stating that I'd died, which explained why several neighbors had been leaving sympathy casseroles on my porch. She filed something called a caretaker notice with a notary who conveniently shares her last name, her cousin Bradley Yates, who runs a mobile notary service out of his van. She had the HOA landscaper scalp my wildflowers into regulation HOA haircuts, creating perfect circles of mulch where native plants used to thrive. The HOA Facebook group featured my cabin as their new community meditation annex with a caption reading, "Don't disturb the space, namaste." Someone installed a solar path light on my walkway every 10 feet, creating an airport runway effect. Someone else installed a Ring doorbell that pointed inward toward my door, supposedly for security of the meditation space. They'd even put up a small lending library filled with Marla's self-published book about finding your authentic mountain self through property management. Real subtle moves there. The violations escalated in creativity. She cited me for unauthorized wildlife harboring because birds nested in my eaves. She complained about architectural inconsistency because my cabin predated their covenant requirements by 30 years. She even filed a grievance about light pollution because I didn't have lights, claiming the darkness created a safety hazard for her evening power walks where she definitely wasn't casing my property. I roll up in my dusty Tacoma with a bag of groceries and find, besides the signs, a guest book on my kitchen island that reads like a wellness retreat schedule. Marla's morning mindfulness class, bring socks and suggested donation $20, was written in purple ink. Tuesday's sound healing with Tibetan bowls, Thursday's manifestation circle for property values, and Saturday's sage cleansing ritual for negative energy, which apparently meant my cabin's authentic character. The schedule showed they'd been using my space for 3 months straight, charging admission for some events. My spare key that was once hidden under a rock is now in a combination lockbox screwed directly into my cedar siding with 4-inch lag bolts. When I pull it off with my drill, leaving holes in my pristine wood, Marla appears with 2 board members flanking her like backup dancers. She announces loudly enough for the chickadees to file affidavits that I am trespassing on HOA common property. She's wearing a blazer with an HOA president pin that looks like military rank insignia and carrying a leather portfolio embossed with her initials. She speaks in a rehearsed tone saying, "Sir, this property has been designated as a community wellness space under Section 47B of our amended bylaws." I respond that Section 47B of nothing applies to property you don't own. Her left eye twitches slightly as she realizes I know about property law. One board member, a nervous man named Gerald, starts backing away slowly while texting someone, probably his lawyer. Then she calls the sheriff with a dramatic voice to report a male squatter threatening women, adding that he seems unstable and might be armed, which is interesting since I'm holding nothing but groceries and my drill. She tells the dispatcher with fake tears in her voice that she's terrified for her safety and the safety of the community. While we wait for law enforcement, she flourishes a packet of papers including an abandonment affidavit, a caretaker deed intent form, something called a community amenity designation, and a wellness easement that she apparently created on her home computer. The seal on the documents is a pine cone wearing a tiny gavel, which would be hilarious if it weren't so absurd. The paperwork includes phrases like whereas the community has established beneficial use and therefore the HOA claims right of stewardship for the greater good. She's highlighted portions in 3 different colors and added sticky notes with legal-sounding gibberish that she probably got from an internet forum about adverse possession. The deputy arrives with a state forest ranger in tow because someone called about construction in a riparian zone, which happens to be a protected wetland area. Marla's face shifts from smug satisfaction to slight concern when she sees the ranger's truck. I produce my deed, my parcel map showing the exact boundaries, my tax receipts for the last 3 years, utility bills in my name, the contract with the property management company, and a letter from the county confirming my parcel is unincorporated and, this is the key part, completely outside the HOA's platted limits by a full 150 feet. The ranger produces photos from his investigation showing Marla's crew building what they called a yoga deck over protected cattails, felling 2 saplings for view corridor compliance, and dumping gravel in the wetland to create a meditation garden. He has timestamps showing this all happened in the last 2 months. He pulls out a tablet and shows us drone footage of them actually cutting the trees down while Marla directs the operation like a film director. The deputy flips through Marla's papers, pauses at the notary signature with her maiden name, and radios the county recorder's office. He spends 5 minutes on the radio, occasionally saying, "Aha, and you're kidding me." Spoiler alert, nothing's been legally filed, and the notary license for Bradley Yates expired 2 years ago. The deputy pivots immediately, pulling out his notepad, and now I'm the complainant. The board members begin the slow shuffle of people abandoning a collapsing parade float, trying to distance themselves from Marla. Gerald actually says out loud that he had nothing to do with this and was told it was all legal. Marla goes absolutely thermonuclear at this point. She shrieks that we steward property values and protect the community from blight as the ranger measures stump diameters and mutters the words timber theft and federal violation under his breath. She waves her arms saying this is a conspiracy to destroy everything she's built, that her HOA has won awards, though she can't specify which ones. The deputy photographs the lockbox bolts still warm in my cedar siding from where I removed them, the damage to my door from multiple sign installations, and the 37 solar lights they drilled into my deck railing. I hand over the guest book which contains dates, names, and one breathtaking entry that says collected donations for annex upkeep, Venmo at Marla Y, total this month $840. There's also an entry about planning to install a permanent pergola for summer events, and another discussing converting my bedroom into a healing crystal showroom. Someone named Beverly wrote that she left her check under the doormat as requested for her monthly membership fee. The property crimes detective arrives like an eclipse blocking out the sun. He's a veteran cop who looks like he's seen every scam in the book, and his expression when reading Marla's documents suggests he's found a new one. He starts taking photos of everything while asking Marla very specific questions about when she first entered the property, who gave her permission, and how much money she's collected. Her answers get progressively quieter as she realizes she's admitting to multiple crimes. The charges begin to stack up rapidly. Criminal trespass for every documented entry, vandalism for the damage to my siding and deck, filing a false report with intent to mislead law enforcement, attempted deed fraud which is a felony, unlawful tree removal on private property near wetlands which brings federal charges, operating an unlicensed event space violating county ordinances, and theft by deception for collecting money for a space she didn't own. The detective mentions something about our ICO violations if she used the HOA as an organization to commit these crimes. The deputy asks with a professional tone if I want to press charges. I nod once without hesitation and say absolutely, for everything. Marla's voice climbs into mosquito range as she insists this is all a misunderstanding, that she was protecting property values, that she has emails supporting her position. The handcuffs come out and she actually tries to step behind Gerald as if he's going to protect her. A breeze flips an HOA flyer to the page that ironically reads "We love boundaries and respect private property rights." The detective reads her rights while she protests that this is all a misunderstanding, that she was protecting the community's interests, that no jury would convict someone trying to improve the neighborhood. She demands to call her husband, who apparently is a personal injury lawyer, not a criminal defense attorney, which becomes obvious when he shows up and asks if they can just pay a fine and make this go away. The detective actually laughs and says this is way beyond a fine, counselor. As they lead her to the patrol car, she shouts that the HOA will sue me for destroying community cohesion. The ranger immediately tells her to stop talking and adds another charge for threatening a witness. She finally goes quiet when the deputy mentions the phrase 20 years to life for the accumulated felonies, though that's probably just to make her think about her choices. By winter, after months of legal proceedings where Marla tried everything from claiming diplomatic immunity because she was an HOA president to arguing that she was providing a public service, she finally pleads guilty to a buffet of misdemeanors and one tidy felony for the falsified deed nonsense. Her lawyer, a competent criminal attorney she finally hired after firing 3 others, convinced her that going to trial would result in significantly worse outcomes. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who owns a cabin herself 2 counties over, orders restitution of $47,000 that covers a new dock, 2 mature replacement trees at contractor prices, restoration of my wetland area, removal of all modifications, repair of my siding, and a proper steel bear box for my property. The court issues a permanent stay-away order stating Marla can't come within 500 feet of my fence line or any notary stamp in the county. She's also banned from serving on any HOA board for life and must notify any neighborhood she moves to about her conviction. Pine Needle Estates votes unanimously to ban board members from entering, managing, or staging any property not titled to the HOA and dissolves Marla's entire board in a special election. Her community service assignment is 300 hours of trail maintenance, specifically picking up every glittering shard of her wellness retreat votive candles from the forest she tried to curate, plus another 200 hours of wetland restoration under the ranger's supervision. The felony conviction carries 18 months in county jail, though she'll serve 6 with good behavior plus 2 years probation. She also faces federal fines of $30,000 for the wetland violations. When the judge announces the sentence, Marla's face goes from HOA beige to prison pale, and she whispers in a broken voice that she was just trying to improve the neighborhood. The judge responds that imprisonment might improve her perspective on property rights.